When we think of Moses, we picture the great leader of Israel, the lawgiver, the man who parted the Red Sea. But there's someone by his side whose story has been almost completely forgotten. A woman whose courage and wisdom shaped Moses' life in ways history rarely remembers. Her name was Zipporah. Zipporah was not just Moses' wife, she was a Midianite princess, a woman of strength, insight, and faith. She met Moses in the wilderness, far from the courts of Egypt, and became a partner in one of the greatest journeys in biblical history. Yet, despite her pivotal role, her story is often overshadowed by the tales of plagues, miracles, and kings. In this illustrated Bible story, we'll uncover the life of Zipporah, her first encounter with Moses, her daring act that saved his life, and the legacy she left as the mother of one of Israel's most important figures. Get ready to meet the woman behind the man, the forgotten wife of Moses. Part 1. The Unexpected Meeting. After Moses fled Egypt, escaping the wrath of Pharaoh for defending an Israelite, he wandered far into the desert. Tired, thirsty, and uncertain of his future, he arrived in the land of Midian, a place of strangers, flocks, and rugged mountains. Here, Moses would not just find refuge, he would encounter a life-changing moment that would set the course for his destiny. At a well, where the women of Midian came daily to draw water for their families, a group of shepherd girls struggled against a band of other shepherds, trying to take control of their flocks. Among them was Zipporah, the daughter of Jethro, the priest of Midian. Strong, confident, and fearless, she did not hesitate to act. Moses, witnessing the injustice, stepped in. He defended the women, helping them water their flocks and sending the other shepherds away. There, by the quiet waters of Midian, he first saw Zipporah. She was striking, not only in appearance, but in her courage and spirit. Their eyes met, and in that brief encounter, a spark of connection ignited, a silent understanding of strength and character between them. This rescue at the well moment, though simple, was monumental. It was the beginning of a partnership that would see Moses through exile, marriage, and ultimately, the greatest mission of his life. Zipporah's bravery and wisdom were evident from the very first meeting, and Moses, weary from his flight and the weight of his past, could not help but be drawn to her. In that quiet desert moment, a future wife and ally was found, a woman who would become more than just a companion. She would become a pillar in the story of one of history's greatest leaders. Part 2. Life in Midian. Moses had fled a life of power and privilege in Egypt, leaving behind palaces, wealth, and familiarity. Now in Midian, he faced a completely different world, one of rugged mountains, endless deserts, and a people whose customs and ways were foreign to him. Yet it was here that he began to find peace, purpose, and a new sense of belonging. Zipporah played a central role in this new life. As the daughter of Jethro, the priest of Midian, she was wise, capable, and accustomed to managing both family and community matters. She introduced Moses to her people, helping him adapt to their ways. Under her guidance, he learned the rhythms of Midianite life, tending flocks, navigating the desert, and understanding the customs of a culture so different from the courts of Egypt. Life together was simple but meaningful. Moses and Zipporah shared work and laughter, challenges and triumphs. She became not only a wife but a teacher and confidant, helping him navigate the loneliness of exile. In her presence, Moses' heart began to heal from the trauma of fleeing his homeland and the guilt of past actions. Yet, even in this peaceful life, a sense of destiny lingered. Moses knew he had been called for something greater, though the details were still unclear. Zipporah, with her quiet strength and steadfast faith, became his anchor. She was a partner in every sense, wise enough to counsel him, courageous enough to face the harsh desert alongside him, and compassionate enough to create a home in the wilderness. It was in this period away from the eyes of Egypt that Moses' character and leadership quietly matured. And all the while, Zipporah's presence was more than supportive, it was transformative. She helped shape the man who would one day lead a nation, showing that sometimes the most extraordinary influence comes from those who walk beside us in ordinary moments. Part 3. Marriage and Family. After months of living in Midian and growing closer through shared trials and joys, Moses and Zipporah's bond deepened into love and commitment. Their marriage was not just a union of hearts, but also a meeting of courage, wisdom, and destiny. For Moses, who had fled the halls of Pharaoh's palace, this new life offered a sense of stability and belonging he had never known. For Zipporah, marrying Moses meant standing beside a man marked by a divine purpose, far greater than ordinary life. Soon their love bore fruit in the form of children. Zipporah gave birth to Gershom and later Eliezer, bringing new joy and responsibility into their household. These children were not only a source of personal happiness, but also a link between Moses' past and his future mission. Zipporah nurtured them with care and wisdom, teaching them both the values of faith, courage, and resilience. Life as a family in the desert was far from easy. Moses balanced tending the flocks, learning Midianite ways, and reflecting on his destiny, while Zipporah managed their home, guided their children, and supported her husband's growing sense of calling. Despite the hardships of desert life, their home became a place of love, safety, and partnership, a quiet kingdom of two adults and their children amid a vast wilderness. Yet beneath this calm and joy, a larger story was beginning to unfold. Moses' past in Egypt was not behind him, and the call of God would soon reach him in ways that would challenge both his faith and Zipporah's courage. But for now, in these simple human moments, family meals, laughter, teaching their children, and tending the flocks, Zipporah's influence was profound. She shaped not only Moses' life, but also the foundation of a family that would play a pivotal role in the history of Israel. In these ordinary yet extraordinary moments, Zipporah revealed her quiet power, the strength of love, the courage of faith, and the wisdom to guide the man who would one day lead a nation. Part 4. The dangerous journey back. Life in Midian was peaceful, but Moses could not ignore the call that stirred deep within him. God's voice reached across the wilderness, summoning him to return to Egypt and confront Pharaoh, to lead the Israelites out of slavery. The path ahead was perilous, filled with uncertainty, danger, and divine demands that would test both him and those closest to him. As Moses set out on the journey back to Egypt, a terrifying incident occurred, one that the Bible mentions briefly but whose meaning carries immense weight. At a lodging place along the way, God sought to strike Moses down. Scholars and theologians have debated the reasons, but it seems that God's anger was connected to Moses' family and the covenant of circumcision. The moment was urgent, life-threatening, and incomprehensible to any ordinary observer. It was Zipporah who acted with decisive courage. Without hesitation, she took a flint knife and performed the circumcision on their son, Gershom, in a swift and startling act. Then, in a moment of profound significance, she touched Moses' feet with the foreskin and exclaimed words that reflected her understanding and faith, a recognition of God's covenant and a protective intervention. This single act saved Moses' life. Zipporah's courage, quick thinking, and faith turned a moment of divine wrath into one of survival and renewal. Though the event is mysterious and brief in the text, its implications are clear. Zipporah was more than a wife. She was a protector, a partner in God's plan, and a woman whose faith and decisive actions shaped the course of history. In that instant, the quiet woman from Midian revealed a hidden power. While Moses would go on to confront Pharaoh and perform miracles, it was Zipporah who first confronted danger with unflinching bravery, ensuring that God's mission could continue. The journey back to Egypt was not just a physical return, it was a test of faith, a trial of courage, and a reminder that sometimes heroes are found in the shadows, acting when the moment demands it. Part 5. The shadow behind the story. After the miraculous and terrifying moment on the road to Egypt, Zipporah fades from the spotlight of the Exodus narrative. The Bible does not recount her role in the plagues, the parting of the Red Sea, or the journey through the wilderness. Yet her influence lingers quietly in the life of Moses, shaping his character, faith, and resilience in ways history rarely records. Being a foreign wife in a land and mission not her own was no simple task. Zipporah lived in the shadow of a husband called to monumental feats, yet she carried her own weight with dignity and courage. She managed the household, nurtured their children, and supported Moses as he wrestled with God, confronted Pharaoh, and led a nation. Her strength allowed him to focus on his divine calling without being consumed by worry over family or home. Even when unmentioned, her presence was felt. Moses' endurance, patience, and ability to navigate the hardships of leadership were shaped in part by the calm, steady guidance of his wife. Zipporah's story reminds us that influence is not always loud or recognized. Sometimes it is quiet, hidden, and profoundly powerful. The shadow she occupied in the biblical narrative is not a mark of insignificance. It is a testament to the many women whose courage and wisdom underpin the great events of history, even if their names were barely recorded. Zipporah's story is a reminder that heroism often exists behind the scenes, in moments unseen but deeply felt. Through her faith, intelligence, and bravery, Zipporah ensured that Moses was not only protected, but strengthened, ready to fulfill the mission God had called him to. Her legacy may be hidden in the shadows, but it was essential to the story of the liberation of Israel. Part 6. Legacy of a Forgotten Hero. Zipporah may not have walked across the parted Red Sea. She may not have confronted Pharaoh or delivered grand speeches to the Israelites. Yet her courage, wisdom, and faith were the quiet forces that shaped the man who did. Without her guidance and decisive actions, the story of Moses and the liberation of Israel might have unfolded very differently. Her legacy is not measured by recognition, but by impact. Zipporah teaches us that heroism is not always in the spotlight. Sometimes it is in the moments of courage no one records, in decisions made in the shadows, and in steadfast faith when the world demands action. She was a protector, a partner, a mother, and a woman whose strength ensured the survival and success of those around her. In remembering Zipporah, we honor all the unseen heroes of history, those whose names may be whispered in footnotes, yet whose actions ripple through generations. Her story reminds us that influence is not always measured by fame or accolades, but by the lives touched, the dangers averted, and the faith that perseveres in the face of uncertainty. Zipporah, the forgotten wife of Moses, stands as a symbol of quiet bravery and enduring wisdom. Her life calls us to see the strength in those often overlooked and to recognize that behind every great story, there may be someone whose courage made it possible.